Hey guys, today we're here with Dobby on our first official podcast for Forgotten Kingdom. Uh, we just wanted to begin with what it takes to start and run an organization. How's it going, Dobby? You know, it's a little scuffed. You just told me you need to undeafen, and I said I know, and then I didn't undeafen.
You moron.
Starting off fantastic. Anyways, how you doing today, Dobby?
I am Peachy Keen. It is Monday after all.
Awesome. All right. So I did already give the opening statement while I was deafened. um, so I guess one of the most important things when developing an organization is going to be what is your goal? Because there's a lot of different goals that people could have with an organization in the amateurs.
Well, I agree goal setting is very important, but since this is our first podcast, let's talk a little bit about like what we're trying to do here as for like what we want to do moving forward with the podcast just so we can get a good introduction. Unless you already did all that.
Um, no, not really. I just kind of blurbed what the initial basis was about today's episode. So the podcast we actually fully intend on using to push out more content for the amateur scene, maybe get some people recognized, get ourselves recognized, and help guide people in a better direction, as well as maybe get some guidance of our own along the way.
Yeah, I think that's really important to do because this isn't a thing that actually happens in like the amateur scene all that much. Organizations don't really communicate with each other outside of like maybe some production crew, maybe the owners themselves, but not from the outside looking in. And then you have your difference between the big orgs that are like constantly winning, have a lot of money and stuff like that, versus creating something new, right? So anyone who wants to like listen to this, look back to it in the future, this can also be like a sounding board, like grabbing ideas from us and how we see it, and then you guys can comment, ask questions about how you do it. I'm not gonna yell at my side. Dang child,
Gotta love
he's playing Roblox.
them.
Yeah. So I think that's also really important. Is just being able to have like an open discussion almost between organizations or just people who are thinking about wanting to start an organization so they can go through the lessons because there's not a how-to book like there is for like everything else. Like if you could think about it, this is the Walmart version of a complete idiot's guide to running an org.
I'd say that's pretty valid. There are definitely a lot of hiccups along the way, a lot of difficult people to work with, 100%, and a lot of, I guess, in a sense, soul searching of your own along the way.
Yeah, for sure. And you and I have a lot of experience, myself as a player, from like Diamond all the way up to GM and playing in different orgs, coaching in different orgs, even partook in running the Rift Combine last year. And this isn't your first organization either. You had another one, a championship team came out of it even. So we do have different skill sets in, I guess, like the hierarchy of running an organization.
Yeah, I
So
I do actually have a little bit of experience of myself as a player. You know, gold.
yes, well,
It's
most
very,
orgs
very different.
now,
Very different.
plat's the new gold. But yeah, so I think like having our unique skill sets and like how and our opinions go into it, and because we've been there, we see how other orgs do it right, do it wrong, and we can bring that into this as well, without trying to flame certain people. You know who you are, John. But other than that, yeah. So let's go over our first topic.
Yeah, I mean, like, first thing you got to think about every time you're taking a big step like this, starting something that you're getting involved with a lot. What is your? There's so many different with this in particular. You can be aiming to just make your own team to play for fun. Um, you could be trying to do something more serious with it because you want to a part of the scene, but you don't really have the time as a player or the skill set at the time. Like, speaking for myself, at that time, I did not have the skill set whatsoever, and I didn't have the time to put into gaining it. So I wanted to stay part of the scene. So what I did was I started managing teams, building my own organization from the ground up. Or there's even a third avenue you can go, which is simply an event coordinator. You're just hosting events, tournaments.
Yeah. So like it's not just about hosting an amateur league. Like you could also, or an amateur organization. You could also go into hosting an amateur league or creating an in-house server or something like that to try and get something going. Regardless, infrastructure is a thing that needs to be necessary. Nothing's going to grow if you don't water it, right? So it's just being able to put in not only the effort, but understanding where to make that focus. Because if you overwater, it's going to die. If you underwater, it dies. If you ignore it, it dies. If you have too many people trying to manage the plant, it dies, right? So just being able to find that good happy medium.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like you said, too many hands in the pot. Sometimes it's just way too much. Like, you gotta get some people to take a step back. It is unfortunately part of it sometimes. As much as everyone wants to help, sometimes it's a little detrimental.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, like that's one issue that we ran into in the past.
Right. Like having too many people get in on it, like moving far back. And these are just like common mistakes that happen because that inexperience is there. But we feel like one of the things that can help with that is setting like goals, like goal setting, right? What is the vision for the organization that you are trying to build? Is it one of those things where you want to build a team for like Rocket League, League of Legends, Valorant, right? And CS:GO is making a big comeback, or see Counter Strike. I don't know if it's Go again.
CS2, but it's a
Yeah.
reskin.
Yeah, yeah, but it's making a big comeback now. So like, do you want to participate in that? Create something small, and like, what is your end goal? Like, you need a short term goal, you need long term goals. You need to be able to like make sure that they're not only feasible and attainable, but like they're realistic. You can't you can't just say I want to win LCS. Yeah, you and every 12-year-old who's playing this game, right? Uh, but like, what is actually things like? How are you going to be able to establish that? Like, is your goal to have fun, participate in a tier 3 league, maybe get a little bit of recognition out there? Is it player development? Is it winning? Is it creating content? It's these separate things that you have to find and define, and over again. And then one of the hardest parts is people don't know when to evaluate and reassess, right? Because goals change, time changes. You don't know how exactly everything is going to happen, but you like just being able to be like, okay, well, this didn't work out. Let's try it again. Or this, we succeeded. Now we have to go back to the drawing board, find something new, or we have to maintain this.
Yeah, and things can change on a dime. It might just simply be that you're not as capable of achieving what you wanted to, and you might need to pivot a little bit. Or you might need to make other sacrifices to actually get to where you want to.
Right. And like the hardest part, I would say, about starting from scratch, right, is also one, it's time management, right? Like
Absolutely.
we're adults. Yeah, like you and I are adults. We have families. Like we're in our 30s and we're passionate about the game because this is something we can do, not just for a hobby, but like we actually like doing this. We like being invested in this. And like for me personally, as like an analyst, I really like um helping players and developing players. Like you have this younger generation that wants to be good at this game and wants to actually get better. And because we're a small organization, we're not big, we're not like charging people $30 an hour um to get a coaching session, or $300 an hour to get a coaching session, just to be yelled at and be called a moron, right? Like
Hey, I'll do that for free.
I'll yell at you, no problem. But yeah, and I think that's a big thing, and I think that's like a large risk, and well, an inherent risk as well, is like being able to manage your time effectively.
Yeah, there's that, along with the fact of, oh my gosh, you really need to be dialed in with what you want in terms of your brand, or you're going to spend money over again. Um, and like, I can't tell you how many times I've got new logos, got um, new overlays, graphics, stuff like that. It's crazy the amount of money that I just spent for no reason, along with just throwing a team out there just to throw a team out there.
Yeah, and that's like a hard, that's like another risk too, right? Like you're putting all this time, you don't want it to be for nothing, so you have to get something last minute. And is it like, is that sustainable? Absolutely not, right? You might get like that one diamond in the rough that stays or goes further and has the passion to continue, but most of the time that's just not a thing. And like I think you're hitting the nail on the head here. Like finance, like managing finances, especially because like we're just men. Like I don't want to say old men.
We're old
Some of
boys.
us, yeah.
We
That
still want our
sounds,
toys, you know what I mean?
yes, phrasing. But like, yeah, you have to create something. You can't, you can do what Disguised Toast did, right? He literally just went on Paint and did this, but that dude is a millionaire. He can do whatever he wants, right? For us to also get respect of other uh, organizations and like in leagues themselves, you have to have some sort of branding, right? So like the AFK symbol has gone through many iterations since I've been a part of the organization.
Yeah, I think
Um,
oh my, yeah, we've gone through three different iterations, and that was before I had um the three different Element 5 logos that I had.
right. And then you also have to talk about the like the startup costs, like because you have to pay, you have to put money forward to participate in a lot of these leagues. Um, at least the ones that players are going to take seriously enough to try and win and improve in. You also have to look at like, for example, what other things, like do you want to create content? You have to pay someone just to pay to create your backgrounds and overlays and do everything like this so that
Unless you just happen to
once,
have that skill set for everything. What? That's
yeah,
very
yeah,
rare. Very rare.
if your gay brother just happens to be really good at graphic design, then you're really good at this. You get lucky. uh so thanks again, Adam. uh
You're ridiculous.
But but so and but you have this too. But there are other options, right? So like that's a risk that you have to go in, because like how are you gonna explain to your baby mama that you just spent like $50 on literally a digital piece of art that may or may not be valuable, right?
Professional
Or
advice: do that. Have that conversation before you commit to anything.
unless you don't like your wife. I've been there. Um but there are other options out there, right? Like
There's
uh
Fiverr. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't had the best experience with people. Um, there are a couple on there that have done phenomenal work. So, so I'm not gonna knock the entire thing. Be very, very particular and don't settle for anything. Absolutely.
well, I was gonna go into like other ways to get money, not spend the money.
Well, I
Like
thought I thought you were talking about the graphics still. That's
oh, oh no. So like you can get sponsored, like a sponsorship, right? Um I was a part of an old OQ team that was like was going to get sponsored by like Gatorade, because the owner of the organization used to play professional football over in Europe and retired, and happened to know like like know the ins and outs, and was able to like communicate that, and like was gonna help us get like new equipment, like upgrade our rigs so that we could participate and not have as many lags, because we were having, I think my AD carry at the time was playing on a laptop.
Oh, I remember
Yeah.
those days, dude. I played on a laptop for like a year and a half,
Yeah.
and that laptop was terrible, like 30 frames or less.
Yeah. And while that might be realistic right now, there are other options out there that you can be like, you can go talk to another org. You can go talk to like the teams, not the teams, the league, and be like, hey, would you sponsor a team? We'll play under you, uh, but like everyone just like mention that this organization's up and coming. Kind of like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Like especially if you know some of the people there, like those are options out there as well. Creating content is also another thing, right? So like while you have that risk, you also have that reward, and a lot of people have the misconception that winning generates revenue.
Hmm.
Um,
No,
at best, if you win, you make back what you put in.
that's best case scenario.
Yeah.
Um,
Unless you're like playing in like a $10,000 tournament or whatever, or something like that. That's not like a general regular league season or something. Uh, but yeah, like winning, while it helps the brand, it doesn't make the brand viable, right? Like even look at Cloud9, these professional organizations, they win constantly, but they're always in the negative, because winning doesn't make it. Merch, yeah, win. Speaking of merch, Swordog, uh, merch is one way to do it. Content's another way to do it. Winning just gets your name out there, so people want to consume the content, right? While those are two sides of the same coin, like you're not going to make coin by only doing one of those.
and each one is not an instant thing either. It's going to take time to generate recognition for your brand. You're not really going to be able to get any sponsors, affiliate sponsorship, um, without brand recognition. And so a lot of these things are going to take time. They're going to take work, and you really got to put in the like.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and it's not easy, and it also goes with like I mentioned, like finding these like big payout tournaments. Like you also have to put in a lot of money to participate in those. Um, but like I think this also goes to like the goals, right? Like what what league or scene you want to be a part of and fit in, right? So do you want to have a gold elo team regardless of the game you play, uh, and just playing gold, right? It's like maybe $10 buy-ins. You win maybe like a skin at the end of the season if you win, and it's fun and it's really interesting. But that is like you're just there to have a good time. So you got to be able to establish where you want to be within the hierarchy of the amateur scene in your relative game, because that will help determine your goals and how you get there, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah,
Um,
like
typically you're going to be starting off in the tier 3 scene, which is like realistically anybody who wants to play can play. It's your rec league, right? You just join up, you come play. Then you got your tier 2, which were you kind of briefly touched on that, no? No, no.
yeah, like so tier two, so tier three, tier four, right? It's like your rec league. You're starting to get into the more competitive nature of where you're going, right? There are a lot of like organizational run leagues. Like I really don't know any Valorant leagues. But like for example, like
There's
Risen and Aegis. Aegis is a great example, right? Aegis has like Rocket League, Rainbow Six, Valorant, League of Legends. They have a lot of tier three leagues, and they want you to be competitive for it. And like if you're there playing in the high and within those leagues themselves, they have separate like I guess sub tiers, right? What's based off your elo. So if you're Radiant in Valorant, right, you're going to be playing at the highest level in tier three, and people get scouted out of that. Like this organization ourselves, like we have players not only get their starts here, but have made their rounds through here that have made it to tier two. And I you can say tier one, he's just a sub right now. But like he got his start here. So being able to go through with that, it is a big deal. It means like certain things that you're doing are working, and you don't want to be the thing that stops people from developing, but you want to be able to have that structure in place and being able to fit into that competitive scene. So if you have a whole bunch of players that are ready to go for it, you have a staff that are going behind it, you'll be able to compete in these things, right? And you'll be able to hopefully win, create more recognition, build the brand or help build the brand, and do all these things. And we'll go over this in a future episode, but this is why retention of talent is extremely important, because you're not going to build a brand with different names every time, right? Like for
yeah.
example, TSM wouldn't be TSM without Bergson, right? That like the dude doesn't even play video games anymore, and he still has more Twitch followers than like almost every other League of Legends player there is.
Yeah, revolving doors they will happen. Absolutely. Um but you really got to find those ones that are worth the extra effort and try your best to keep them around as long as possible.
Yeah, that just helps with branding, right?
Not even just branding, like
and
even the team itself.
yeah, like you're able to show that you as an organization can make a place that's comfortable for the players to continue to grow, right? And as long as they're getting better at the game and you're able to facilitate that, like you're going to go in different places. Eventually, like if you get so good at it, you're going to be able to hire enough staff, hire, right? Uh,
Yeah,
which is where
you get really lucky sometimes, and you get a lot of people that are equally passionate, not only about the game, about what they do and what they want to do, but also believe in your vision. And then you can get a lot of volunteers. which
Yeah. And
hopefully you will one day be able to pay.
in the army, we call it drinking the Kool-Aid. Like you're able to go and like motivate these people to your vision, keep it going. And then because you're doing that, like you're going to be able to have more people come in and be able to do this. Other organizations that are like younger than ours have like 8 teams, right? Just because they were able to put up a lot more risk at the beginning. But they just keep themselves, right? They have like 8 different teams playing in like 8 different leagues, and they're always in eight different elo ranges,
Yeah, like you'll
right?
see a lot of the same name, but then you got like maybe 50%, if that, of them performing. And then like
Yeah,
we have 2 teams. Two. Originally, we were gonna stick to one for a while. We tried 3 at one point, and we were like, nope, this is way too much. So
we try. We also it was 3 across 2 different games, and
oh
that
yeah,
is where it became extremely difficult because the people that we had in place to help with the Valorant team um weren't, because Valorant's such a new game, right? Like I'm old. I can say for the last 15 years I have played League of Legends. There are 15-year-old challenger players right now,
shout
right?
out Seasoned
And
Thieves.
yeah, like oh my goodness. And but like Valorant is a lot younger, right? The player base is a little less matured. The fact that the leagues were also a lot less matured. You didn't really have a lot of these tier 3 places. You had tournaments, right?
Yeah,
So
it
you
was
didn't have,
individual tournaments.
yeah. So you didn't actually have like a season in which they played together and got better. And eventually, like because of that, there's not a common goal, right? Going back to those goals, there's not a goal for that team.
Yeah, their goal
Um,
is effectively win tournament and make it, because you're literally playing, like, you can play in smaller tournaments, but you're gonna get like nothing. It's gonna be like $50 PayPal compared to joining an actual VCT event or something like that, where you're gonna get a bigger payout and you're gonna get actual recognition towards joining a real, like, not a real roster, but you know what I mean.
and
Uh,
like our Valorant roster was really good. They went to one of those tournaments and won it. It was really good. It's just like after that though, they won, and there wasn't anything coming up soon. And like I believe the summer happened, and then like some of them were kids. They
yeah, kids had a lot of drama between them. Um, Kind of sucks because there was a lot of talent in that roster, and I would have loved to see where they would have gone. But
and kids. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Um, and then when you're thinking about that talent too, like as you eventually, because everyone's goal is to want to move up to the next higher league that they're participating in. So like, how do you entice your players or staff to stay, knowing that you're not going to be able to pay them? Like a lot of tier 2, like the bigger ones that are constantly winning and going through it, um, are not only sponsored, they're getting paid, they're getting everything. And if someone was like, "Hey, I want your player," and your player is the best player in your team, and someone's like, "Hey, I'll give you right now 3 grand, and I'll upgrade your computer," you're going to be like, "Well, dang it."
yeah, like that's actually a perfect example, pretty much, because one of the guys that was helping me out when we were first developing the Valorant side of things, Forgotten Kingdom. Um, what he actually used to do was he gave the players a monthly salary and then took a portion of winnings due to the fact that they were actually paid consistently. So they were constantly entering tournaments, and then if another player wanted to remove themselves from the roster or they wanted to accept another offer, they would effectively have to buy out their contract for $1,000.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. But I didn't touch Valorant. I didn't touch Valorant.
And that's what he did with his old team. Um, but he was paying all his players out of pocket, putting them on contracts, and
yeah, and
that's effectively what you need at the higher level, or you can just come in and scoop up one of your players.
Yeah, and that's like a double-edged sword too, because like you have organizations in the past, even leagues, that got all this money and stuff, and they were promising salaries, and the players never saw that money, right? Like the org owner kept it and then literally ran away. Like you have the good and the bad, right? Like it's really good on that guy who, like our guy who was able to do that for his old team. We wanted something similar like that. That goes back into that sponsorship and the crowdfunding that you're able to do. Um, but also at the same time, like if you're not winning, if you're not doing these things, like do you really want to pay your players and not get anything back in return, right?
Yeah,
because it's also resume building for the staff. Like you're not gonna like you're able to do that. That's really cool. You probably have a really good job, way better than I'm ever gonna have. That you can afford to do that. But also, you can say because of that system, you won like 8 VCC tournaments, and then now that Valorant has what they have a league, right? Like a tier 1 Riot sanction league. Or did it boom yet?
I don't know. I honestly, after we kind of dropped our Valorant section of the organization, kind of never really looked deeper into it. I actually quitting the game myself.
Okay, well, let's see here. They have Valorant Esports VLR is a custom
VLR
VC
is scouting thing. Like it's effectively your OP.GG for Valorant.
Valorant Championship Tour. Yeah, there's games going on this weekend.
Yeah, that's what I think VCT is.
Oh yeah, knockouts. Oh, is it Worlds? Like, is it their World? No, that's
VCT is their LCS.
So this is their kickoff. Kickoff starts this weekend. Yeah, and then international and stage 1. Yeah, there's just like all the I don't know. YOLO.
But yeah, it's. I think it's still effectively the same, just individual tournaments. You qualify for VCT by playing in some of those, and there's like a, and how do I put it? Like there's open qualifiers where you need to reach a certain amount of points, kind of like League used to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they kind of still do it now in OQs. Like you need a certain amount of points, but it's really whoever gets to 3 and 2 within that qualifiers, and like as long as you're making like top 16, top 8, then if you get enough points by the end, it's usually the top 4 teams are the one that are consistent, or the ones that participate in the promotion tournaments for the tier 2. But like points, okay, yeah, cool. But they are there, but they don't really matter. They're made up, right? It's like whose line is it anyway rules. But yeah, like they used to do all that stuff when it was proving grounds and not open qualifiers.
Yeah, that's the one.
And yeah, proving grounds. yeah, Proving Grounds also like was that higher elo tier 3 competitions used to be tier 2. It used to be run out of an organization called UPL, um, Unified Premier League. Um, and that's how Proving Grounds used to done, and that was done on a point system because that was just the easiest way to do it. And then that's where like scouts went and stuff like that. And this was before like Riot made tier 2 non-optional, like a requirement, and then they took that back and made it optional again. Like UPL's been dead for like 6 years. Um, so that's another one of those people who's like you're getting money, but you still have to pay the people. You can't just keep it, right?
Yeah, Upsurge before it was unified. I used to love that organ. That was like my go-to. I would compete all the time.
Is that where E5 won?
Yes. Uh, Upsurge minor league.
Yeah. Yeah. So like being it, yeah, and it's hard because with the death, not the death, the buyout of that league, it's hard to maintain like any type of semblance of, oh yeah, well when this was Upsurge last year, we were the tournament champions, but like literally no one in that server knows who anyone is anymore because of a complete shift in everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hence why it's no longer E5.
Yeah, I mean, it did kind of give me a fresh start, so that was a added bonus.
Yeah. And lessons learned and being able to implement them.
Absolutely.
Um, and like going back off that tangent, getting back on track. I think, and there are no tracks. I think one of the things that like I started stop yelling. Oh my god, it's raining tacos. I don't know if anyone can hear it, but I can for the last 30 minutes. It's raining tacos on Roblox. And it just started again. Oh my god. So I think new organizations and stuff like that, you need to be able to offer something new or unique, and you're not gonna like reinvent the wheel here, right? Like, yeah, you can say hey, we have low elo in houses. Yeah, so do a lot of other people, right? A lot of other organizations do that already. You got to find like that niche. It could be that, right? And you're just really good at organizing these tournaments and being able to get the people in here to do that. Like if you're doing it better than everyone else, absolutely. But I think finding that thing that speaks to you and your organization better than it does to others, so you can bring in that talent and that community that needs to be built up to help the brand get started. I think that's something that you need to like have, and like you can brainstorm in your goal setting sessions and stuff like that. You can, like you're not gonna just be able to start off from scratch. You're gonna have people in mind that you want to start this out with. So maybe use them as a sounding board and be like, hey, what do you think we can do differently that other than this? Um, uh, I have a personal opinion that a lot of people, a lot of organization owners that I've seen in the past, they want to do these things where like, hey, we'll start you off here at the bottom and then do a development roster, and then they'll get freaking boxed in by this idea that like just because you're plat you can't play an emerald, and so on and so forth. And then they're like, oh, you can't move up until you rank up, and like they pigeonhole themselves, preventing development. And like
Which is something we actually do a little differently here. Like, you might not necessarily be on the upper ends of what we're expecting. As long as you're just about to touch it, we're willing to give you a shot. And, you know, it's got to be a fair shot, just also.
And I think that like these quote unquote schools that they're trying to create actually prevents, or like, they're one, everyone wants to create a school, right? Like everyone wants to be like, we know how to do this. But like none of us are teachers. None of us are like, you're gonna find very few people who have been like been taught in sports psychology. Um, right? And then you're gonna be like, well, I'm the owner. I'm gonna do what I want anyway. Um, speaking from previous experience, not from here, um, John. So they're just going to want to do their own thing. They're not going to listen. Like it's not an original idea. And it's not something that you're doing that others don't have, because other organizations already have a developmental system, right? That's why they have different leagues, different teams at different elos. And then like because the organizations are winning in them, they have that player retention. So they're getting better. And then they can move up. They can always go up. Um, so it's not necessarily that. Just as an example, because it grinds my gears sometimes. Um, but like, what else can you do?
Like we
And
also
like,
have an HR. People don't have that. Like
yeah,
we want you to feel comfortable being able to go to us. So like even to Sage Iron Tiger here at AFK, then you're going to be heard, and we're going to deal with the issues. If you want it dealt with in like a non-confrontational way, the option is there. But it ultimately, at the end of the day, is up to you to bring up your issues.
right. And I think that's one thing that we try to do differently is not to just run it as an org that plays in leagues, but like as like a small business, right? We want the players to come in, we want community members to come in, and we don't want to differentiate them, right? We want to be able to have like a community guideline, for example.
Yeah. Like we
And
have
like,
staff guidelines, player guidelines. We have
yeah,
a whole bunch of different.
and like if a player, and the best part is our HR guy is terrible at video games, right? So like he has zero input in the teams. He has zero knowledge on how to play the game. He is not there to coach you in that, right? So if there's like a personal problem between yourself and a player, between players, or a player and a coach, or and something like that, or you and another staff member, he can be like, all right, well, you come to me, we can handle this like adults, and we'll go through this rigmarole, right? And that's really cool. But a lot of times, and I'm going back into previous experience again, you have some guy who fills that role in another organization, and all they really are is the girlfriend of the organization owner, and just ignore the problem completely.
That's crazy.
Yeah. What's crazy is she dumped him, cheated on him, stole his money, and then dumped him.
Hey, we don't need to know.
You don't need to know all that. I like sharing.
And then like another very important thing to try to incorporate into your organization, because realistically, ultimately, at the end of the day, what's going to pay the base or pay the bills is your fan base. Um, Community engagement. You've got so many options.
Like we talked about in-houses earlier, like that's still a thing that like can be done. I think it's very useful, especially between teams, if you have enough teams or competitive players in your organization, right? In-houses are really good. They're competitive. You can banter and have some trash talk, as long as it's mostly PC.
And
it's a lot of fun, and it's
everybody
a
is everybody's all friends at the end of if you can't do that, don't start it with something.
right.
And
You'll
like,
always have that one guy.
especially
You'll
don't
always have
start
that
it with
one guy.
somebody unless like here's my rule. Okay? Do not like I would not trash talk somebody I don't know. But you, Dobby, if I solo kill you anywhere, I don't give a if you're off roll. I am letting you have it, bro.
I get that all the time. All the time. Like they'll be like, I solo killed you. I didn't
this
even use my keyboard.
this GM support main in the top lane. Don't worry, I got the kill.
Yeah, meanwhile, they're freaking on their one trick and try-harding. Like, you can literally feel the sweat coming through the computer. Getting freaking perma-ganked. Like, yeah, like, that's also a lot of fun. Like you're able to have those moments and create those type of memories. And I think that's also important. And there are other options out there for community engagement.
Like Jackbox party games, those are a blast.
Oh yeah, those are actually fun when you're able to get into it and do it. Yeah, you're not always going to be able to have your entire server. There's like 700 people in our server. There's no way we're going to get all of them in there. I mean, we'd be lucky to get like 50 people on at a single time for a community engagement night. But like having that option and still doing it as like a staff and organization, like as the leadership, like shows that you care, right? Like our general manager in our organization, hard stuck iron in League of Legends.
Not literally.
Bronze. Unironically, he's been in iron. Like we would have to pay for an iron account. He's been there on his own.
We love Mike.
Right? But like my point being, not that he's iron, is that he still jumps into calls to talk to players. He shows that he cares. He hangs out with these players and he'll play with anyone. It doesn't matter. And he isn't there to be like an angry little emo boy who loses, right? He's not going to smash his keyboard. Most of the time, you're just going to hear him laugh.
True.
And giggle.
Doesn't matter if he's died 20 times, whereas I'm ready to take my keyboard, spin around, and smash it against the wall. No, he'll be laughing. He'll be like, I can't believe that just happened, bro.
Yeah. Like, he is built different, right? But like he shows that he cares, and I think that's another thing that helps with that engagement. Our Sage is also trying to get like movie nights going and stuff like that. Like when Arcane came out, tried to get those weekly sessions going, and like yeah, not everyone showed up, but it was still something that was done. And I think like having a long-term goal of community engagement is extremely important because like Howler was saying, without that fan base, without those players and people being a part of your organization, the organization isn't going to grow. No one's going to want to be a part of it. No one's going to want to do these things. So
even if it's just a passion project and you're looking to break even bare minimum, that's not going to happen unless you've got some sort of work.
Yeah, like nothing in this world is free, right? Like if you go into create a Discord server, call it Applesauce, and that's your team name. And you go to Discord servers and you start recruiting players. Yeah, you can have 6 people in your Applesauce, but like that's all you're gonna have. And it's not easy to start off with, right? Like I was here years ago and it was just like 100 people more or less, but like there was only like 12 people on at any given time.
Yeah.
like I think like talk about like how hard it was to start it, like even getting like non-players in.
Getting non-players in is honestly probably the hardest part, and then retaining other players that don't make the cut, that's second hardest. Because non-players, all you're going to have initially are your friends. And if you're not very social, very small social battery like myself, then, you know, I'll disappear for like a week and just watch anime. But, but
this is why we do everything online.
But like,
what?
If that's the way that you are, then like, you're going to have maybe 1 to 5 people in your server initially. Then you're going to have a team. which you then have to manage. But trying to get people in active that um aren't players is going to be more like friend of a friend type thing, and then you're going to have some interactions with them, and like, are they going to want to hang around after they've interacted with you? And then it just becomes this constant cycle of trying to keep your activity up in the server. Things like that. That's something we're still to this day working on. Because everybody's got their own different friend group, right?
Yeah.
So
and also like everyone else in other servers, right? You just like sometimes you'll be playing your game and you just drop your Discord link in, and that's how you get a lot of people in as well. Now there's a danger to that because you can't vet them, and you'll get like some people, some really not nice is going to be my word.
yeah, you get some not nice people in it,
right? But like sometimes if you're playing the game with them, they like the vibe, they like how it's going, they're chilling with you, they're picking up what you're putting down. They'll stay in the organization, and then they'll want to play, and then they could invite people themselves. So there are those other possibilities that you can do to help build that initial startup. But you also going back into risks. Bleh. Like you'll get a lot more. You're not gonna be able to vet. You're not gonna be able to vet the people that are coming in as frequently.
Fully expect to take out the garbage if you have to.
Which is why we have an HR guy. Right. So
that's why we have moderators and an
HR. You have my terms for moderation. So let me boot that one guy. Yeah. How 1, 2, 3.
And then, like I was saying,
I really wish I could.
It really retaining players. We've had the same players in the league server 4 or 5 separate times because they were mad that they didn't make the cut. And it's like, man, if you're gonna keep coming back, just stay here.
Yeah, like they get mad they don't make the cut, but they keep coming back, right? Because we're offering something out there that they want, right? They want a chance to compete. They want to be competitive. They want to get their name out there, right? Excuse me. And we've had success. Like we had a roster. Was it the last
2 splits ago? We took a split.
2 splits ago.
Our old knights. Yeah. Well, we divide them by knights and exiled within our server, but everybody represents AFK, and that's kind of how we go. But our knights roster 2 splits ago.
Yeah. Well, one their inaugural iteration of Risen Dominate.
Yeah, we AFK'd game 1, and then won every other game.
Yeah, and that's why. Yeah, I can't. AFK.
Everybody made that joke about us, and then we just won every game after that. So.
Yeah. And like within Risen, it was like an anomaly too, because like they don't really do weekly content like some other leagues do, like Aegis does sometimes. But like the casters that are going about it like had no like knowledge of any of these players or the organization themselves, outside of maybe 1 or 2 of us. But then they just like they got written off week 1 because they AFK'd. And then literally just dominated. They actually did so well and so good that even though they never got elo sat, they never breached or like went over the elo cap and something, like they were the admin team was like, this team is too good. If it stays together, like they're just gonna keep winning. So they made up a rule saying that just this team can't stay together.
They basically barred us from competing in the same division because our players excelled so.
Yeah.
Meaning, if we competed in the next split in the next division up, that if we didn't do so good, they would actually allow us back in. However, what we decided to do, take the split off, work on individual player, like work on their individual skill. I think what 3 or 4 of them, I'm not sure, bumped up into masters, and then
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately our team had to separate a little bit, and we got 2 new players.
But like the core, like playing the one I would consider the best player on the team, the top laner, got to keep him.
Silly Boy Joe, we kept Silly Boy Joe, we kept Kusho, and 50 Cal Taco. So our bot lane is the new lane. Snapsky, step down, and then we got a new AD carry in place of Knives, which
Who was
honestly
arguably the worst player.
Honestly, like, dude, you can say that all you want, but dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. With as many deaths as he had every fucking game and putting out as much damage as he did every game, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'm not saying Knives is bad.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
saying Knives isn't as good as the other 4 players, and every team has that.
Objectively, yeah, I would agree. But yeah, that man,
as an analyst,
that
the
man
numbers
dumped out
say
so much damage. It was crazy.
Yeah, if only he cut his deaths down by like 50%, he could have been like the best. But the dude likes walking alone butt first into bushes. So, you know, you can only go so far. But and that's fine.
Yeah.
Like that's fine.
I think that's about all we got for time for this.
Yeah. Well, we just spent a lot of time talking about talent and
Just
acquisition and stuff like that.
And well, we didn't really go too deep into that. Speaking of which, actually go next step.
Yep. Where we'll go more in depth and like how to find players, develop them, get them motivated, and find out what their goals are. Working towards a topic goal. How to find a team, like how to conduct a tryout as well, which is what I see a lot of organizations do wrong. People sometimes just go for their friends or people they already know, and things like that, which is fine, right?
Again,
but
it all comes back to the goals. But
yeah, all comes back to the goal and what you want to do, and just like retention of talent is also so extremely important, not just for the players but for the staff as well.
Which we've even touched on a bit this episode.
So like how do you keep your coaching staff, your managers, like the other people that help keep the server running, and that's extremely important. But yeah, that'll be next week this time.
Yeah, should be. I don't know if it's going to be the same day, but if you're not already part of the Discord, be sure to click the link down below and join, and check out the Swordog shop for our merch if it piques your interest, even if you want to just take a peek. And hopefully we'll see you around. Bye.
Peace.